Dear children, I am going to continue history lesson number 14 in your textbook, that is Democratic and Nationalist Revolutions during 19th century. Now let us have a quick recap of what we learned in our previous class. We learnt about how feelings of nationalism rose in European states and what were the effects of French Revolution and how were the kingdoms of Europe during that period and how the aristocracy, that is the rich people, they are called as aristocracy, how the aristocracy dominated the society. And also we learnt about liberalism and conservatism. And I gave you some homework. I hope you have done it. Now let us start today's lesson. Napoleon's defeat and Congress of Vienna. In 1815, Napoleon was finally defeated by Britain, Russia, Prussia and Austria in the Battle of Waterloo. And after this defeat, these countries like Britain, Russia, Prussia and Austria, they met at Vienna, which is the capital of Austria, to draw up a settlement for Europe. All these four countries which defeated Napoleon, finally in the Battle of Waterloo, they met at Vienna, which is the capital of Austria, and they wanted to draw up a settlement for Europe. And this is known as Congress of Vienna. So Congress of Vienna was held in 1815 and it was held under the leadership of Austrian Chancellor Duke Metternich. And the main objective of this Congress of Vienna was to undo most of the changes that were brought by Napoleon. Napoleon, during his rule, he fought many wars, and during these wars, he overthrew many kings and kingdoms also, and he occupied them. So, to restore those kingdoms again, to restore those kings again, that was the main objective of Congress of Vienna. Whatever changes were brought by Napoleon, they were reversed by the Congress of Vienna again. Now let us see what this Congress of Vienna did. Restoring the Bourbon dynasty, which had been overthrown during the French Revolution. During French Revolution, as you remember, Louis XVI and his wife were executed. And with that, the Bourbon dynasty came to an end. And restoring that Bourbon dynasty was the first objective of this Congress of Vienna. And they did it by restoring Louis XVIII. By making Louis XVIII as the King of France, they restored the Bourbon dynasty because he also belongs to the Bourbon dynasty. Many kings and kingdoms were overthrown by Napoleon during his wars, and all those monarchies were restored now by the Congress of Vienna. A number of states were set up on the boundaries of France to prevent France from expansion in future. And thus by restoring monarchies, they wanted to create a new conservative order because conservatives, we already discussed, they wanted to preserve the old traditions like monarchy. Monarchy should never be abolished, that is their opinion, their belief. So thus by restoring monarchies, they wanted to create a new conservative order in Europe. And also Poland was given to Russia. Poland is a small country, it was given to Russia, which is a big country. Their languages, their nationalities, all are separate. But Poland was given to Russia by the Congress of Vienna. And also Holland and Belgium, they were united. Here also, Holland and Belgium, their languages are different, their nationalities are different, but they were united together by the Congress of Vienna. And in this way, many conservative regimes were set up in 1815. And all those were autocratic, means they ruled as they liked. The rulers of these conservative regimes, they ruled as they liked. And if their policies were criticized by anyone or not agreed upon by anyone, they could not tolerate it. They could not tolerate criticism or dissent. And most of them, they curtailed press freedom. Means restrictions were imposed on press, newspapers, books that reflected the ideas of liberty and freedom. Because they were against liberals, against liberty and freedom. So they curtailed this freedom of press and media. And another movement which was led in European states was Romanticism. To create a national feeling among the people, to rouse nationalistic feelings among the people, it was a cultural movement which was started in Europe to develop national sentiment through art, poetry, music and painting. Because many people were illiterates And to inspire these illiterates, this was the only way, through paintings or art or music, because they cannot read and write. It was done through art, music and painting. And this is called as Romanticism. So Romanticism is a cultural movement started in Europe to develop national sentiment through art, poetry, music, painting, etc. And this was a way to inspire the large section of population who were illiterates. Now, 1830 revolution in France. Already we have discussed that there were two revolutions in France, one in 1830 and one in 1848. Now let us see what is this 1830 revolution. We already learned that the Congress of Vienna restored the Bourbon dynasty. How it restored? By making Louis XVIII as the king of France, it restored the Bourbon dynasty. And he belonged to Bourbon dynasty. Louis XVIII, he abolished the national tricolor flag, which was the symbol of revolution. As soon as he became the king of France, he abolished the national tricolor flag, which was the symbol of revolution. And he also imposed censorship on press and media. And he was then succeeded by Charles X. Now let us see, this Charles X was only responsible for this 1830 revolution in France. How he was responsible? He completely abolished freedom of press. Charles X completely abolished freedom of press, and also he tried to restore the special privileges to noble and the clergy. He wanted to give some special privileges to the noble and church officials. It was not liked by all the other people. And he also abolished the National Guards. And to that effect, he passed ordinances on July 26, 1830. Because these ordinances were passed on July 26th in 1830, this 1830 revolution is also called as July Revolution. And that is why this revolution is known as July Revolution. And when these measures of Charles X were objected by the Chamber of Deputies, Charles X set aside the Charter 1814. Actually, when he became the king of France, he was ruling according to Charter 1814. Charter 1840 means it is just like a constitution. What are the rules and regulations to rule the country? So, when his measures were rejected by the Chamber of Deputies, immediately he set aside this Charter 1814 and ruled as he liked. And there was an open revolt against this. And Charles X was forced to abdicate the throne because there was an open revolt from all sides. He was forced to abdicate the throne. And this spark of revolution spread to Belgium and Poland also. I told you already, Belgium and Holland, they were united together by Congress of Vienna, and Poland was given to Russia. So Belgium and Poland, they were also trying to get independence. So this spark of revolution spread to Belgium and Poland, and Belgium revolted against Holland and got its independence in 1830. And they set up a constitutional monarchy similar to that of Louis Philippe in France. They set up a constitutional monarchy, that means a constitution was prepared, and according to constitution, the king was ruling. And as we learned that Poland was given to Russia by the Congress of Vienna, so the Polish people also revolted for independence from Russia. But this revolt was crushed, and many of the people in Poland, they were put to death. Now the next one is 1848 revolt. Now let us see what are the causes and who is responsible for this 1848 revolt and how it occurred. After Charles X abdicated the throne, Louis Philippe, he was a distant cousin of Charles X, and he was made the king of France. And he called himself as people's king. And he led very simple life. He sent his children to the public schools. Like others, he sent his children also to the public schools. He used to walk in the streets of Paris just like common people. And he wanted to satisfy all the parties. That was his main drawback. He wanted to satisfy all the parties like Revolutionary Party, Constitutional Party, Republican Party. Many parties were there, and he wanted to satisfy all these parties. But he could not. And somehow he came under the influence of constitutionalists. So the other parties were not satisfied. And Republicans, they wanted to establish Republic in France. Socialist Party was formed with the slogan "Work for All" by Louis Blanc. Louis Blanc, he is a socialist, and he formed a socialist party with the slogan Work for All. He demanded work for all the people. And Reform Party was formed by Thiers. Thiers, Thiers, he formed a Reform Party. But the king sent his army to suppress these revolutionaries. But they also joined the revolution. Instead of suppressing the revolutionaries, they also joined the revolution. And finding no other alternative, Louis Philippe fled away to England. And then France was made republic under Louis Blanc. Now, unification of Germany. This is the most important part of the lesson. How Germany was unified. Nationalist feelings were widespread among the middle class Germans. As usual, middle class were more educated. And these middle class people, they cannot tolerate inequality in the society or injustice in the society. So they raised their voice. Like that, in Germany also, it was the middle class people who raised their voice. So the nationalistic feelings were roused in the minds of middle class Germans first. And in 1848, they tried to unite the different regions of German Confederation into a nation state. These regions of German Confederation, that means German-speaking people, they were scattered here and there. So they were to be united together to form into a nation state. And that attempt was made by the middle class people in Germany. But this was suppressed by the combined forces of the king and the military. And they got the support of large landowners of Prussia. They supported the king and the military also in suppressing this revolt by the common people. And these large landowners in Prussia, they were called as Junkers of Prussia. So, with the support of these Junkers, the king and the military together, they suppressed the revolt started by the middle class people for unification of Germany. So, the first attempt which was made to unify Germany was suppressed. Then, Prussia took up the responsibility of uniting Germany. And the movement for national unification was started under the leadership of Prussia. Now Prussia took up the responsibility and it played a leading role. Ottoman Bismarck, who was the Prime Minister of Prussia, was the architect of unification of Germany. He was the leader of this unification of Germany. He was the person who achieved this unification of Germany. So we call him as architect of unification of Germany. Bismarck fought 3 wars with Austria, Denmark and France. He fought 3 wars and he won all the 3 wars, and thus the unification of Germany was completed. Now let us see what are those 3 wars and how he used his tactics to win these wars. The first war he fought with Denmark over the possession of Holstein and Schleswig. These two, Holstein and Schleswig, these are 2 places which are on the borders of Denmark and Germany. So both Germany and Denmark, they were claiming these Holstein and Schleswig. So over the possession of these 2, Holstein and Schleswig, there was a war between Germany and Denmark. That is Bismarck and Denmark. And in this war, he took the help of Austria. Bismarck took the help of Austria, and in turn he promised that if he wins the war, he will give Holstein or Schleswig to Austria. With that promise, he took the help of Austria. And with the help of Austria only, he defeated Denmark and took away both Holstein and Schleswig from Denmark. But he did not keep up his promise to Austria. Why? Because he wanted to fight a war with Austria also, because some of the German states were under Austrian control. So he wanted to fight a war with Austria. He did not hand over any of these 2 to Austria. And this led to a war between Bismarck and Austria. And to win this war with Austria, he made an agreement with Napoleon. See how he used his tactics. He made an agreement with Napoleon saying that he should not support Austria in the war. If Napoleon supports Austria, Austria will win the war and Bismarck will be defeated, because Napoleon has very large army. So he took a promise from Napoleon that he will not join Austria on the side of Austria in the war, and he should remain neutral. For that, Bismarck promised, and in return Bismarck promised that he will give permission to exploit Rhineland for a period of 15 years. Rhineland, it is a region which is rich in minerals. Bismarck won the war but again did not keep up his promise, because now he has to fight a war with France also to unite Germany. So he did not keep up his promise. Thus he used his tactics made to Napoleon The promise made to Napoleon also, it was not kept up by Bismarck. So it led to a war between Bismarck and France. And in 1871, Franco-Prussian War was fought between France and Prussia, and ultimately France was defeated and Germany got unified. All these three wars were won over by Bismarck, and thus the process of unification of Germany was completed. And after unification in 1871, in the month of January, the Prussian king William I was proclaimed as the first emperor of United Germany. Now, unification of Italy. During the middle of 19th century, Italy was divided into several states, as you can see in the map. Out of all these states, only Sardinia was ruled by Italian prince. Can you locate Sardinia in the map? You can see in the map below Monaco, there is a big island like in orange color. But this is not a single island, there are two islands, that is Corsica and Sardinia. The upper part, it is a small island, that is Corsica, and the lower part, it is Sardinia, it is a bigger island. And this Sardinia only was ruled by an Italian prince, and all the other states in Italy, they were under the rule of foreigners. Some were ruled by Pope, some were ruled by Spain, some were ruled by Austria. So, now these are to be united for the unification of Italy. Now, the unification of Italy was carried out by four people. They were Mazzini, Cavour, Prime Minister of Sardinia. Cavour was the Prime Minister of Sardinia, and Garibaldi and Victor Emmanuel II, King of Sardinia. Now let us see how they did. The northern part of Italy was under Austrian Habsburg Empire, and the center was ruled by the Pope. And the southern regions, like two kingdoms of Sicily and all, they were under Bourbon kings, Spain. So these were to be united for unifying Italy. Mazzini, he formed a secret society called Young Italy. And all the people who were below 40 years, they were the members of this Young Italy. And they were sent to nook and corner of the country to rouse the feelings of nationalism among the people, which was very much necessary, which was very much needed to unify Italy into one state. So, the members of this Young Italy were sent to each part of the country to rouse the feelings of nationalism among the people. That was the work done by Mazzini. And Prime Minister Cavour, he led the movement to unify Italy. He was the Prime Minister of Sardinia, and he led the movement to unify Italy. And by using all his diplomatic tactics, he defeated Austria. In 1859, he defeated Austria, and in 1860, Garibaldi, with his 1,000 red shirts, the army of Garibaldi's army is called as 1,000 red shirts. And with these 1,000 red shirts, Garibaldi marched into south and the kingdom of Two Sicilies. The last one, violet colored, is Kingdom of Two Sicilies. He marched into this Kingdom of Two Sicilies and was successful in driving out Spanish rulers. This region was under Spanish rule, and the Spanish rulers were driven away by Garibaldi with the help of his 1,000 red shirts army. And in this task, he was helped by the local peasants. The local peasants who were living in this Kingdom of Two Sicilies, they helped Garibaldi in driving away the Spanish rulers. And actually, this unification of Italy was achieved in 5 stages. And when the third stage of war was going on, Cavour died. And after his death, Victor Emmanuel II, the King of Sardinia, he took up the responsibility of unification of Italy, and with the help of Garibaldi, he conquered and unified the states of Middle Italy, which were under the rule of Pope. And thus, the unification of Italy was completed. Now the chapter is over. As usual, I am going to give you some homework. Read the remaining part of the lesson, underlining all the important points, and learn and write the remaining 1 mark and 2 mark questions, and write without seeing, and complete the blanks and MCQs in the material. And material page 53, if you have an atlas with you, you can try to complete the map pointing. Or with the help of whatever you learnt in your previous class, if you have any idea of these European states, you can complete the map.